Bubbles going, but before we do all that, let's grab this guy. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. Bum-ba-dum-bum. What's up? I hope you all enjoyed that advertisement. And here we are. It's in fact been a bit longer than just coming right back. You know, I stopped recording and said I'll be right back. I was not, in fact, right back. But that's okay. I actually think, yeah, you know, I think this will be okay. I think what I want to talk about right now kind of goes along with what I was rambling on and on about in the first half of this episode. And so, yeah, I think this will actually kind of make an episode. And if not, if I go back and look and realize this is just horrible, then it won't get recorded and it won't go anywhere. But I still want to record a Solo Dolo Brolo episode, and I actually have something specific I wanted to talk about. And I was thinking, so I sat down and I watched 29 minutes. No, it was probably a little bit more than 29 minutes. We'll say, you know, I sat down and watched 45 minutes, we'll say, of a movie. And then I was sitting there and I was watching it, and I was thinking the whole time while I was watching it. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be sitting here doing this. I want to do something else. So I was like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go record a little bit. I still have that half episode that I didn't get done, so I'm gonna go ahead and record a little bit more and see if we can't get a full episode, you know, kind of graft some things together. But the movie that I sat down and watched the first third of, maybe the first half of, I don't know. It wasn't the first half. It definitely wasn't half of the movie. Was The Island, directed by Michael Bay. Now let's see. Who wrote The Island? Written by Caspian Treadwell Owen and Alex Kurtzman of Star Trek fame, and Roberto Orci. From a story by Treadwell Owen. Okay. So it looks like Caspian Treadwell Owen kind of originally wrote the story. Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci kind of came on and probably did screenwriting, and then took it from there. And then Michael Bay directed it. But The Island has been one of my favorite movies since I first saw it, probably back in 2005. I've only seen it a handful of times. I bought it on the PlayStation Video, back on PlayStation 3. PlayStation 3 was kind of set up in a way to be like a one-stop shop. Like, you plug your TV in, to the PlayStation 3, and then you plug the PlayStation 3 into the internet, and everything kind of ran through there. This was before kind of smart TVs were really blowing up. Actually, when I got my PS3, I still had a CRT. I didn't get like a flat screen TV, like a modern TV, until, I don't know, probably 2010 or 2011. Like, I was rocking old school, big, fat, beefy CRT, well into the 2010s. But the PS3 was kind of designed to be the one-stop shop. It would have been later than that, I guess. 2012 maybe is when I got the 2012, 2013 even is when I got the first TV. Anyway, the first flat screen TV. I was still rocking the old school one. Probably 2013 probably. Anyway, the PlayStation 3 was designed to be what kind of smart TVs have become, in a way, like a media center, not just a video game console. But because you plugged your PlayStation into the internet, they had apps. They had Netflix, and other apps. I don't remember what apps there were back then. But, you'd log into the PlayStation Network. You would play your games. You could download games or buy physical games. And you could also buy movies on PlayStation Video. And you could watch them directly from your PlayStation. And that went away. I don't know when that went away. That went away a long time ago. And it's not really a thing anymore. I can find the movies that I purchased on PlayStation Video if I log into the website on my computer. But I almost never do that. I cannot find them on my PlayStation Now. I don't know where they are. I'm sure there's some way to access them. But yeah, I bought a handful of movies on PlayStation Video, thinking I would have access to them forever. My thought process at the time was, well, I'm, as long as I'll always have the internet, I'll always have a PlayStation. And so I might as well just buy it here on PlayStation Video so I can watch it right now when I want it. Boy, was I mistaken. Same thing happened to me with Google. I don't know if any of you remember Google Play Movies and TV, which you can purchase movies on YouTube and watch them on YouTube. And it's, fine or whatever. And I have, I don't know, a couple dozen movies or whatever that I purchased on Google Play, that I now can watch on YouTube because I purchased them. But with the music, dude, I had a grip of music that I purchased on Google Play Music. I've never had Spotify. I barely got a Spotify account. And I signed up for a Spotify account for my podcast to actually make a page on Spotify and all that. But I've never used Spotify, never used Pandora. I do use Tidal when I'm in my car. I plug my phone into my car and I stream music on Tidal because Tidal pays artists more than YouTube or Spotify or the other services, but it's still such a measly amount that it doesn't make a real difference. But performatively, it makes me feel better. And it's not even performatively because almost no one knows what Tidal is. You tell people, oh yeah, I use Tidal. I don't have people try to, oh yeah, let's make a Spotify playlist. And it's sorry, dude, I don't have Spotify. But anyway, yeah, I had a grip of albums that I bought on Google Play Music. So you could download and stream or download the music and listen to the music. This was, yeah, dude, really before streaming. It was still in the age of the iPod, and I was never an Apple guy. So instead of having iTunes and buying music and movies on iTunes, I bought music and movies on Google Play. And you would buy an album, then you would download it onto your device, and then you could take it with you and listen to it, wherever you wanted to go. But, that's the way it goes with these things with digital media, that is just another kind of drop in the bucket and another piece of supporting evidence in the argument for the supremacy of physical media. But anyway, The Island. It's one of my favorite movies. I've only seen it a handful of times, but it's really good. I like it. You guys should watch it. It came out in 2005. It's directed by Michael Bay. It's got Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson. It's got Steve Buscemi in it. It's got Sean Bean, Boromir himself, Ned Stark, and yeah, it's a good movie. But so I just sat down and watched 30 minutes of this movie, and I thought to myself, yeah, I think I'm gonna go talk about this movie. And then I was thinking, like, well, what would that look like? Would that be like, am I gonna sit down and like go through this movie piece by piece? And then I actually thought, well, that is something I could do on Patreon. Like actually watch a full movie, and then do like a commentary or a critique or something. That would be something that would be cool, but that would take quite some time. That would take the entire length of the movie and then probably double that and then some. So I can go on and ramble on and on and on about all the random shit that came into my head while I was doing that. But I was like, yeah, that's something I could do in the future. I don't want to do it right now, but that would be kind of cool. And then just kind of throw that up on Patreon because, it won't get binged for copyright or whatever on Patreon. But I can't do that on YouTube. And I don't want to do that in a podcast episode because that would be weird because there are people who just listen. So it would be really weird to be listening to a podcast episode where someone is watching a movie. So you just hear the movie audio and then you hear them pause and talk for 5-10 minutes. And then you hear the movie audio again and then you hear them pause and talk. That would just be really weird. So the logistics of all this in my head were kind of weird. But I figured, you know what? I can still kind of talk about it and make it a podcast episode. And then, moving forward, if I want to do something like that, or if there's interest in something like that, then maybe we could actually do the full long version Patreon thing. Or even do streams like that, like do live streams and just kind of use Patreon and Substack to do the stream instead of trying to stream it on YouTube. I don't know, something like that. That would be kind of cool. But for the meanwhile, I still want to talk about this movie, The Island. I sat down and I watched 30 whole minutes of this motherfucker. And I was thinking the entire time. The reason I sat down to watch it is because I sat down on the couch. I turned on Netflix and I was clicking through and The Island was up there in the recommendation algorithm. And it says leaving soon. And I was like, oh no, leaving soon. I better watch that before it leaves. So I pressed play, started watching it. And, half an hour or so later, I was like, I can't do this. I can't sit on the couch and just watch this. So here I am, and here we are. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know exactly. I don't know. This just feels like a weird format. It's me by myself. I'm here in the middle of a solo Dolo Brolo episode, and I'm going to discuss a film that probably not a lot of you have seen, at least not in a long time. And there's like particular things in the movie that I want to discuss too. It's not like just in general, like, oh, if you've seen the movie, you get the gist. Like there are particular scenes that really kind of excited me. I was like, oh, this would be great. This would be great. This would be great. And yeah, I'm definitely not going to sit down to like take the time and actually like make clips. Cause I'm sure, I would do that and then I would upload it to YouTube and it would still get fucking roasted for copyright, and it's not just shit like that is not just a strike or that's not just a claim like that. That's not, they don't just say like, oh yeah, you can use this, but we're going to take the ad money or whatever. That's fine. I don't give a shit. That's a strike. Like, they're like, oh, no, you fucked up. You can't be doing that. That happened to me one time when I was trying to live stream an Adam Curtis documentary. I got a fucking copyright strike. And that was crazy, dude. Like, you would think, hey, Adam Curtis, man, what's up? You should allow people to kind of use your stuff. And nope, got a strike. But anyway, so we're not going to do that. I'm not going to take the time and try to like collate the clips and put them together and then stop and do my commentary and stuff like that. Like I said, it would be kind of cool to do the long form version of it. And maybe that's something that I can do by way of Patreon. But anyway, so we're just going to jump into it. We're going to do it in the middle of a solo dolo brolo podcast episode, because that's what you all are here for. That's what we do here at the Nancecast. We just fucking get down and party hardy till the cows come home. But anyway, so let's see. I took some notes while I was watching the movie, and we'll just see if I can talk about this thing. So the movie opens up, and right around the 2-minute mark. So the movie opens up, and it's like a kaleidoscopic dream, and it seems like a paradise. There's two people on a boat. They seem like they're romantically involved. They're on a nice speedboat yacht thing, and they're flowing through the ocean or the sea, and it looks wonderful. It looks like they're in paradise. And then all of a sudden, there's some bad guys. Bad guys grab the male protagonist, who is Ewan McGregor, and the female protagonist is Scarlett Johansson. They're together on the boat. Bad guys come in out of nowhere. They grab Ewan McGregor. They drag him under the water. He starts drowning, and then he enters like some psychedelic, kaleidoscopic something. And you're like, what's going on? And you hear, people talking. You hear a man talking. And it seems like, okay, this has to be a dream. This is bound to be a dream. It's so fucked up. And sure enough, you hear a man and you see a man's face kind of superimposed over the water and the ocean and the drowning scene. And the man is saying, you're special. You have a special purpose in life. You have been chosen to go to the island. The island awaits you. And so that is the first 2 minutes of this movie. So it starts off, we're in a dream. Something bad is happening. But we are interpolated in this super egoic fashion by being told, you are special. You have a special purpose in life. The island awaits you. And then, at like 2.5 minutes, we see Ewan McGregor. This is weird. I took notes like 2 minutes, 2:35, 3 minutes, 5 seconds. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. But Ewan McGregor is then in bed. And he is struggling in his sleep. His bed, it's in a very sleek, very modern, very utilitarian, very minimalist cell. Everything is white. The bed is white. The sheets are white. The limited furniture is white. It's very sleek, very modern, very chic. And Ewan McGregor is kind of tossing and turning. And then he wakes up. And as he wakes up, we see like a digital display on the wall in his room. And it says like, REM sleep disturbance detected. So we're kind of being brought into this world along with Ewan McGregor. That's the way this movie starts out. And we're being told what's going on by the film. The film is telling us Ewan McGregor lives in this world. This world is modern and sleek and ultra utilitarian and minimalist. And it's designed to take care of him. This readout on the wall that says, REM detection, REM disturbance detected. And then it says, report to Tranquility Center. It's like, okay. So you can kind of like infer from there what's going on. He lives in some kind of like Huxleyan future world, something like that. And then we see Ewan McGregor get out of bed, goes to the restroom, urinates in the toilet. The toilet is measuring all the chemicals. It's doing like the health report, and it says sodium excess detected. Nutrient restrictions recommended, or something like that. So in the first like 4 minutes of this film, we see Ewan McGregor. He's this guy. He's clearly having a hard time. He's having nightmares, but the world he lives in is so perfect. It's set up for him. And look how cool it is. Look how comfortable that king-size bed looks, and everything is white and clean and pleasant. And there's digital readouts that tell you, wake up, good morning. Or they tell you if you're having a nightmare. They tell you if you need to go to the Tranquility Center. They even measure your excrement to check on your health for you. And if something is out of balance, they will enact a nutrition plan to get you functioning properly once again. So it's all set up to be this kind of hyper-functional, minimalist, sleek world. And Ewan McGregor is subject to that as well. This world that he lives in, it's set up for his benefit. You know, the machines just want to make sure he's healthy. And when something isn't right with him, they will do whatever needs to be done to get him back on track. Even in the scene in the room, as he's walking around, he like hits a button and his dresser drawer automatically slides open, and you see his clothing laid out for him, and it's this all white tracksuit, you know, matching shirt, jacket, pants, socks, shoes. They're all white. Funnily enough, he's missing one shoe. That pays off later. But it's taken away the burden of choosing what should I wear? Should I wear my pink shirt today? Should I wear my black shirt today? Should I wear my black pants? Should I wear my Adidas or my New Balance or my Puma? What should I do? You don't have to choose. It's all laid out there for you. And you're good to go, you know? All you need to worry about is being good and happy and healthy. So then we follow Ewan McGregor as he leaves his little domicile, his little housing cell, whatever it is. He walks down the hallway. He interacts with a couple people. We see other people dressed similarly. We start to zoom out and kind of see the world. It's very futuristic. And it does have this kind of like Huxley vibe. It looks like if you've seen the show Silo on Apple TV, which is probably a stupid thing to reference because probably not a lot of people have read that or seen that, or read those books. I think it's the Dust series, maybe Silos. I don't know, but it's like a utopian version of that. Like it's just a big kind of, you know, environment, or like a vault from Fallout, but like a utopian vault from Fallout. And you know, updated with modern, not retro futuristic, but like modern. Everything is white, everything is clean, everything is simplified. There's digital screens here and there. There's holograms floating around, stuff and that, but it's very much future. It looks like the video game Remember Me, kind of, or parts of the Mass Effect video game series when they're on the Citadel. Again, just very modern, very high tech, but also very clean and sleek. Very much not cyberpunk aesthetics. So he's walking down the hallway, talking to people. You see more and more people, and you get the idea like, oh, they're you know, this must be quite a few people live here. As they're waiting in line, they're kind of queuing up to get on the elevator. There's a moment where Ewan McGregor cuts somebody in line. The guy says, "Hey, you're cutting." Ewan McGregor turns around and smiles, and he says, "Yeah." He gets on the elevator and he grabs somebody else and like pulls him in, And then the guy that he pulled in behind him says, "We're full," and kind of smiles at him and looks at him, and the door shut, and they go on. I just thought that was a really good moment of kind of demonstrating inherent transgression. Like we do things like that. Like we have in-group, out-group dynamics, and we kind of transgress social norms knowingly and always like kind of tongue-in-cheek. And it's what binds us together. So Ewan McGregor and the old man that he pulled in to the elevator behind him have a stronger relationship than this random stranger that I don't even think we see his face. He's just a random stranger. But them showing this moment of transgression like builds the relationship that Ewan McGregor has with this, old man. Because they're smiling. They're happy about it. He's like, "Yes, I am cutting you in line." And then the old man is also smiling at him. And he says, "We're full." The door's shut and they go down. I don't think that really pays off in the story later. But it is just kind of, I thought like, oh, that's an excellent moment to demonstrate the way that kind of stuff works. Like the violation of social norms works to actually build bonds between people and among people who already have some type of bonds or relations. Or it can even be a moment where that creates a new bond. Like potentially Ewan McGregor never knew that little old man, but they're friendly and they actually talk to each other. And a little bit later, the old man kind of comes around and he makes a joke at Ewan McGregor to demonstrate like they have a rapport, if not a relationship. So it could be the case that they already have a relationship. It could also be the case that this relationship is created in this moment of transgression. Either way, it still kind of demonstrates what that transgression does. It builds relationships between people. I think more than it destroys them, because the stranger isn't angry. He isn't mad. He's annoyed. He's bothered. But you don't see his face. It's not about the stranger. It's about these two characters who are there together. Anyway, they get in the elevator. There's a group. There's probably 8 people, 10 people in the elevator. It starts to descend. There's a screen on the wall in the elevator, and it introduces the kind of core mechanic of this world, which is the lottery. And it names the lottery winner. And the lottery winner is announced. He comes on. They show his face. He's smiling. He's happy. He's talking about how it's always been his biggest dream to win the lottery and go to the island. So at this point, we're like 5 minutes in, 6 minutes into the movie, and the world is already built up in this way where we can see, Ewan McGregor and these, people, thousands of people, however many people, they live in some type of community, some type of society, where there's a lottery for them to go to an island. They very briefly kind of fill in details. They're talking about like outside contamination levels. So once again, you can infer that this is like an enclave in a post-apocalyptic world. The outside is too dangerous. It's contaminated. This island is like this paradise on Earth. It's the only place that it isn't contaminated. We destroyed the world. These are the survivors. And they live in this community together, and there's limited space on the island. And so they have a lottery system to see who gets chosen at random to go to the island. That's the kind of core mechanic of this internal world in this film. And the Starkweather, the guy who wins the lottery, he comes on, he's smiling, he's happy. He's once again kind of interpolating everybody waiting, talking about how it's always been his biggest dream. He says, "I know I've only been here 6 months, but I'm just so excited. I'm so happy, and I can't wait to see each and every one of you there. Thanks. Bye." So he's doing this like restorative moment for everyone who didn't win the lottery, rather than focusing on like, "Oh, shucks, you didn't win. They're trying to do this thing where it's happy, happy, joy, joy. Let's be happy for Starkweather. He got to go. And guess what? Everybody will get their chance. Just be patient, follow the rules, wait in line, wait your turn in line. Funny how about a minute ago in the film, we just saw the protagonist cut in line. He wasn't waiting in line patiently. He cut in line. So that already kind of, tongue-in-cheek showing maybe what might happen in this film. Maybe our protagonist doesn't want to be patient and wait in line. And then when they're in the elevator, everybody's kind of happy and cheering for the guy, except for protagonist Ewan McGregor. He's turned around. He's not even looking at the screen. He's zoned out, thinking about something else. And there's another guy who's there, and he's angry, and he's talking about how he's been there for 7 years and how he's so angry and mad, and how dare you? He was only here for 6 months. I've been here for 7 years. And then he gets angry. He kicks the wall, and he's like, I'm such a loser. I'm such a loser. I'm such a loser. We cut to what looks like security guards with monitors and surveillance tech and stuff like that. And that's kind of like a window into the true nature of this world. So far, all our citizens have all been in white tracksuits, and they've all been generally pleasant. There's little shenanigans here and there. We can see that there's something going on with Ewan McGregor, but for the most part, everybody is like a Stepford wife, or like a vault dweller. Everybody's happy. Everybody's content to wake up in their white rooms, have their robot toilets check their nutrition levels, and monitor their REM sleep for any disturbances, provide them with clothing devoid of any color, and go on about their day. But when we're in this elevator and this guy kicks the wall and says, I'm a loser, I'm such a loser, I'm such a loser, then we kind of cut to security guards monitoring surveillance equipment. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. There's something else going on. What's going on? They're like, there's a disturbance in elevator 12, docking bay 94. Get there quick. They don't say docking bay 94, but shout out if you know, if you understand that reference, docking bay 94. If not, no harm, no foul. Landing bay 94, not docking. I even got it wrong. But they radio, hey, we have a disturbance, blah, blah, blah. The elevator gets to the ground floor, and security guards in black tracksuits, wouldn't you know it, with apparatus. I don't know what their apparatus are, but they're apparatus. They're security guard apparatus. They could be weapons. They could be, crowd suppression instruments. They could be instruments for detaining people. They could just be for monitoring and surveillance. We don't really know. Security guards meet this guy at the door to the elevator. The elevator gets to the ground, the door's open, he gets off the elevator. They're like, hey man, you've already been cited for a public disturbance. Are you good? And the guy's like, yeah. I'm good now. It's okay. The disturbance is all over. So they're presenting force, and it's like, oh no, this is a moment of discipline. But the guy says, no, I know my place. I understand the rules. I'm going to, mind my P's and Q's, dot all my T's and cross all my I's, and I'll be good. And they say, okay, make sure to have a pleasant day. So in that moment, they shift from discipline to control. In that moment, they initially present as big other. They initially present as prohibition. They initially present as, you can't do that. You can't break the rules. But they don't even have to, do anything. They don't even have to resort to force. This guy has internalized the rules of the place and the logic of the place to the point where he gets himself in line and it transitions from discipline to control. So it's not about the big other prohibiting this man or punishing this man for his bad behavior. It goes back to the superego recognizing that this man does have self-control and he can control himself. And then it gives him the command, okay, have a pleasant day. And so this moment right here, I think, is really doing a lot of work to kind of set up the world and show the way this world works. And then it's funny, like right after that in the film, Ewan McGregor keeps walking and they actually show like a little tussle with security guards and another one of the citizens. I actually think that kind of like defangs what's happening with this kind of superegoic control. I think they should not have shown that, discipline being enacted, because it actually kind of undermines the position of the film. The position of the film being that Ewan McGregor is special in some way. And the audience identifies with Ewan McGregor, him being the protagonist. It is him with whom we identify. The message of the film being that this protagonist is special in some way. The kind of underlying ideology of the film being you're special, you, dear reader, you, audience at home. So showing this moment where the security guards actually have to use force on somebody kind of undermines that. It would have been more effective to just stick with the pure superegoic control, having that one micro outburst in the elevator. The interesting thing with that, the disturbance wasn't that he kicked the wall as much as it was him saying, I'm a loser, I'm a loser, I'm a loser. That directly contradicts and contravenes and like that directly goes against the superegoic nature of this place. Everyone's a winner. The lottery, the woman who reads off the lottery explicitly states multiple times, remember, everyone will get their chance to go. And so it is the law of this place. Wait patiently, wait your turn, stand in line, endure the endless queue. Your time will come. That is the law of this place. That is the commandment. So the real disturbance in the elevator isn't just the guy kicking the wall. It's actually him demonstrating a lack of faith or a lack of belief that he will ever win. We can't have that. We can't have someone losing faith in the system, can we? So that's why the guards are deployed. And again, it kind of undermines the underlying ideology of the film, being that you are special, by showing the guards having to use force. But it still does kind of, it still demonstrates like an interesting contradiction, a moment to think like, that's funny. They went from discipline to control, back to discipline. So it's just kind of ultimately heightening the dystopian vibes of the place, really. Again, I think it would have been more effective, would have been an even more effective dystopia had they stuck to control rather than moving back into discipline. But either way, it works. It heightens the dystopia. It is what it is. We continue following Ewan McGregor about his day, his morning, He continues walking down the hallway. It's beautiful, crisp white lines and sharp angles. And we see holograms and digital readouts. And we see other beautiful people, and they're all clean in their clean white tracksuits. Everybody looks healthy. Everybody looks happy. It actually shows a short little, series of people working out and doing exercise. There's people swimming in a pool, and there's people doing yoga, and there's people tanning in the UV beds, and there's people exercising. Again, a little bit more dissonance because it shows some of these security guard personnel or whatever, the black tracksuits, monitoring. They have tablets, they have little information readouts. They're kind of tabulating and tracking. But ultimately, spirits are up. It's a wonderful place. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, and we continue on about our day. So we follow Ewan McGregor down the hallway. We hear an announcement on the PA. It's this woman. It's the disembodied voice. And she says, remember, a healthy person is a happy person. So doing all this, once again, just really reinforcing this place is here to keep you happy and healthy and optimized. And we've seen it with the digital readouts that talk about the REM sleep disturbance detected. We've seen it with the toilet that measures your sodium levels and recommends a new diet for you. And in fact, locks in a new diet for you, which we're about to find out in the film. And we see it with the logic of the disturbance. The disturbance guards are immediately deployed to deal with the disturbance. We can't have anything interrupting the optimized flow of this place. Remember, a healthy person is a happy person. So we follow Ewan McGregor down to the breakfast bar, to the DFAC, to the dining facility, to the cafeteria, whatever you want to call it. He swipes his little smart card, his little wrist ID, whatever it is. It's a little bracelet, wrist bracelet. It's got his ID on it, his identity. He scans it. His name comes up on the monitor. It says dietary restrictions applied. The lunch lady, she's a lunch lady, and she's a sweet old little lunch lady. She tells him what his options are for breakfast, and it's like, you can have powdered eggs and fresh fruit. And he's like, oh no, I wanted some bacon. And she's like, nah, fam, you can't have that shit. That shit's bad for you. You about to die and shit. And he's like, but nah, I'm trying to eat that shit. And she's like, nah. And then he's like, all right, fuck it, whatever. Surprise me. And then she surprises him by squirting out what looks like cold grits onto his plastic dining tray, from like a squishy dispenser thing, and it looks gross, it looks unappealing, and it's played for comic relief. Surprise me. So she surprises him with cold grits. He takes his tray, he goes off, he sits down, and he starts to gloomily consume his breakfast. Once again, this is like another instance of control. He is prohibited bacon. Like he wants bacon, but he cannot have bacon. There is prohibition. There is a firm no. But the no isn't because it's not because there is no bacon, or it's not explicitly, well, because you've been acting up, because you're an asshole or whatever. It's not any reason other than because it's bad for you. So the only reason for the no is ultimately, well, I'm telling you no because it's good for you to not have this. So even negation is turned around into affirmation in this dystopian world. And that's the really fucked up part about it. And that's why it's this really weird kind of super egoic control, because it's telling you enjoy, but enjoy being your best. It's like enjoy optimization is what it's telling you to do. So yes, it is a type of prohibition, but it's a weird type of prohibition that gets that's inverted back into affirmation. So this, negation gets turned into affirmation, which is not real negation, not real prohibition. So we see this play out, and then we see Scarlett Johansson come bouncing down the stairs with her little ponytail. The gates of heaven open up, and the angels sing, and Scarlett Johansson descends from on high. She joins us in the DFAC. She comes over, meets up with Ewan McGregor as he's walking to his seat. She's walking to the DFAC. He's like, I can't have bacon. She's like, okay, just watch this, homie. She goes over to the breakfast bar, scans her smart card. The lady, same lunch lady, she's like, oh, hello, good morning. You can have fruits and eggs. And Scarlett Johansson is like, oh, hey, good morning. How are you? I'll take some fruits and eggs, please. And the lunch lady, with a smile on her face, dispenses her fruits and eggs onto her tray. And then Scarlett Johansson says, "Where were you last week? We missed you. We didn't see you." The woman says, "Oh, that's so nice of you to say. Is there anything else I can get for you, dear?" Scarlett Johansson then says, I really would like some bacon, but it says I'm not allowed to have it. You know what? Never mind. I don't need any bacon. No, thank you. The lunch lady says, "You know what? I'm going to give you some bacon, hun. Here you go." And Scarlett Johansson says, "Okay, fuck yeah. Give me that bacon, bitch." She gets the bacon. They smile. They part ways. This is another moment of showing like how transgression can actually kind of like build social bonds or be the content of a social bond. Like, it's not a real social bond. They're not friends, but it is a rapport and it is a familiarity. And Scarlett Johansson, rather than just kind of coming up and demanding, give me bacon, and then being told no, and then kind of being upset about it and leaving, Scarlett Johansson comes up and she says, I know I'm not allowed to have it, so I'm not even going to ask about it. I'm going to ask about you. And so what she's doing is she's doing this kind of like movement where she's showing the lunch lady, I'm willing to invest in you. And in fact, I have invested in you because I thought about you, because I noticed you weren't here. So I am invested in you above and beyond the bare minimum level of saying, "Hello, good morning, give me my food, please, thank you, bye." Like, it shows investment. Scarlett Johansson has demonstrated that she cares more than the minimum amount about the lunch lady. This pays off. The lunch lady is gratified that Scarlett Johansson has invested in her, and so she is willing to transgress the rules because Scarlett Johansson is also not supposed to have bacon. She's also has high sodium from her pee robot, whatever. But the lunch lady transgresses that rule to show Scarlett Johansson, thank you, I appreciate your investment in me. I appreciate you, and I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to, put myself at risk in some small way for you. And I just think that's a brilliant moment, again, of kind of demonstrating how transgression works with social bonds. And it also demonstrates like the economy of social interactions. Like, being invested in someone takes energy. It takes time. It takes, there is a cost. Now it's a negligible cost, but it still is a cost. Like, you are paying a metabolic cost when you think about someone. When there's an entire world out there, you could be thinking about anything, but you're thinking about this one particular person. You are spending it's negligible, but it's still there, some small amount of your time here on earth and your metabolic energy devoted to this one person. So that's like that investment in that sense. Like, when we talk about I'm invested in this person, like, there is a way to really do a material accounting of it and do an economics of social interactions. And that is what Scarlett Johansson is doing. She's showing, like, I have paid a small price for you, like in order to think about you. And then the lunch lady is paying a small price. It's of a different nature because it's not just metabolic time here on earth. It's not just mental energy. It's putting herself at risk. She's transgressing the rules, but it's still, like, in this kind of social economy, it's still some small investment. It's still a simulation of symbolic exchange. And so that's how that works. That's why that works. And I think it's really interesting. And that is right around the 10-minute mark. So that has been the first 10 minutes of this film. Now we're going to move on. And I think move into briefly a different mode. The film starts telling a different story very, very briefly. And then it gets back to this kind of super egoic control dystopia. And then it kind of goes from there. Once again, it is Michael Bay. So right around the half-hour mark, it becomes decidedly a Michael Bay film. But the first half hour of this movie, I think it's really, really good, honestly. And maybe that's why, after I watched the first half hour, I was like, I'm done watching this for now. Maybe I'll get up and record an episode about it. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so we go on. They eat breakfast. And it's all fun and games. Just after they finished breakfast, then they get up and they're off to start their day. We follow Ewan McGregor as he is walking to wherever he has to go for the day. We assume he's going to walk to work. As he's walking by, you see like a classroom full of adults. And there's like, again, digital displays and screens and holographs and equipment and all this stuff. And they're like reading children's books and doing rudimentary remedial education. And this was interesting to me because it was like, oh, this is language acquisition. That like this is these people entering the world of language. When they show up, they have to be indoctrinated. But it's not just indoctrination. Like when people use the word indoctrination, it's like, oh, you're being assimilated into our culture. You're being taught what to believe. You're being taught the norms. You're being taught how and when to transgress. You're being taught what is right, what is wrong. You're being given the doctrine. So it's not an indoctrination thing. Like they're doing rudimentary language and they really are being subjectivized. They're entering into the world of language. And that's interesting, right? These are adults. Why would adults need to be languaged? Why would adults need to be subjectivized? It's just a moment. We continue on. Ewan McGregor is walking, and it turns out he actually has a doctor's appointment. This is where he meets with Sean Bean. Hold on.
Sean Bean, Boromir himself, the late Ned Stark.
Round of applause, everybody, for Mr. Ned Stark.
Oh, wrong.
Wrong button. Okay, anyway. I hit the wrong button. So he goes in. He has a doctor's appointment with Sean Bean, Dr. Merrick. And this is where we really start to see that our main character, our hero, our protagonist, is troubled. He goes in. He sits down in Dr. Merrick's office. He's talking about these dreams. I've been having the same dream. It's a bad dream. I dream about a boat, and I'm on the ocean, and I get kidnapped. Blah, 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 blah. He draws the boat. Sean Bean's like, oh, that's a cool boat. And he's like, what does this word mean? He's like, I don't know. It's on the boat. And they're talking. And it seems to be the case that Sean Bean is a psychiatrist or a therapist of some type. And then he's like, well, what's going on, Ewan McGregor? Ewan McGregor is like, I want to know what is going on. I want to understand this world. I want more. I want color. I don't always want the white clothing. I want color. I'm sick and tired of living in a world where people, I take my clothes off. I dispose of them. They're carried away magically and miraculously. And the next morning I wake up and there they are again, nice and neat, folded and ready for me. Who puts them there? I want to know. I want to know more. I thought that was interesting because that's kind of like getting at the commodity fetish. Like the world we live in today, a a lot of the time things seem like they just magically appear. Like the clothes in Ewan McGregor's dressers in his wardrobe, like they just kind of show up. And it was interesting that a point of contention for Ewan in this world, something that's been bothering him, is the origin of those clothes. Where do those clothes come from? Who, I take the dirty clothes off, I put them somewhere, they're magically taken away, they're magically laundered and folded and prepared for me. I want to know who does that. That's interesting. I think that demonstrates Ewan McGregor's character is not just a malcontent, but he understands cause and effect in a way that seemingly that the other people in this world don't understand. But it also like it highlights the commodity fetish. Like things in the world we live in today do seem to just magically appear out of nowhere. The type of people who sit back and, eat grapes and drink wine and never really think about where things come from. The type of person who believes electricity comes from the outlet in your wall rather than the transmission lines and the power plants and all the people involved in creating and maintaining all that infrastructure and all the fossil fuels or nuclear fuels or solar energy or whatever it is that's being, converted from raw resource into viable functional energy source or whatever. So I just thought that was really interesting. Talking about the commodity fetish, I don't think they intended it to go in that direction. I think they simply intended it to kind of demonstrate, once again, Ewan McGregor is special. Ewan McGregor being the protagonist of this film, the one with whom the audience identifies. Ewan McGregor is a special, special boy, and he is not satisfied with this world, this simulated world that springs up all around him. I think that's what they were going for. I think they accidentally stumbled into critique of the commodity form. He also talks about desire and satisfaction. Like he is immediately, like his needs are immediately seen to. In fact, his needs are seen to before they even present themselves to him as needs. His toilet measures his sodium levels and understands that he needs less sodium before he understands that. And it enters a dietary restriction for him. So by the time the problem presents itself to him, the solution has already been in place. So there's no distance between desire for the thing and the satisfaction of that desire. And for the average denizen of this world, that's fine. For the average denizen of this world, they never really desire anything. They are content to just live in this world of satisfaction, or something I've talked about in my piece, Enjoy an Ice Cold Hyper Coke. I talk about pre-satisfaction and post-satisfaction, like the death of desire and the foreclosure of drive, the foreclosure of the distance between desire and satisfaction. It's just pre-satisfaction and post-satisfaction. He kind of gets at that too. And when he's saying he wants more, he wants difference, he wants contradiction, he wants negation, he wants prohibition, he wants these things. What he's getting at is that he has a desire. And the world that he lives in is designed to work to keep people from desiring. It keeps people in a state of pre-satisfaction and post-satisfaction. And when all their needs are seen to before they present themselves as needs, then desire never really has an opportunity to pop up and latch on to anything. Or at least the people who designed this world, that's what they think. So that's interesting. Another really interesting part of this is that it does seem to be the case that he's getting at religion. He talks about their entire existence in this world is just preparing to go to the island. And I think that that's getting at this tension between what comes next and what's right in front of us right now. A lot of the time, it seems to be the case that people can ignore the world in front of them and kind of fixate on the afterworld, or the afterlife. Like, well, we have to live our life in this way. We have to be good. We have to follow these rules because we're not really living here. We're just preparing to go to heaven. We're just preparing to win the lottery and be chosen to go to this paradise island and repopulate the earth. Thought that was pretty interesting too. And it does seem to be the case that preparing for often gets in the way of actually being able to live right now. So I thought that was pretty cool. And those themes come up later in interesting ways. But I don't think that's the main point of this. I don't think they're trying to criticize religion. But yeah, it's an interesting part. That's at 11 minutes or so in the movie when he meets with Dr. Merrick. Great scene. And it goes on for a few minutes and they kind of talk about all these things and it's great. And if anybody listening to this feels inspired to go watch The Island, that I think is one of the best parts. Once again, the first half an hour or so of this movie is the best part of this movie. The meeting with Dr. Merrick is maybe one of the best. I think there's another part that I think is a contender. But honestly, yeah, I think the meeting with Dr. Merrick is probably just the best part of the movie. So anyway, we go on. A few minutes later, Ewan McGregor has this meeting with Dr. Merrick. There's a little bit in there that I won't even spoil because I guess it's fun sci-fi movie action, not action, but sci-fi movie hijinks. Maybe I don't want to spoil that in case anybody does go and watch the movie. But yeah, in the Dr. Merrick meeting, there's a cool part too that kind of changes the tone of the movie a little bit. It kind of dips its toe in horror for a second there. After the meeting, Ewan McGregor comes out and he walks to work. He has a job and it's like, well, wait, wow, this is interesting. What are they doing? Like, what could these people possibly be doing? Why is it the case that they have security guards or some form of police, some form of like civic guard class or whatever, and they have lunch ladies and presumably laundry people, and they also have, psychiatrists. So it seems to be the case that they have all this support staff, and they're all wearing black tracksuits, except for Sean Bean. Sean Bean gets a 3-piece suit, but they're all, different, and there's all these staff. So why would our white tracksuit citizens need jobs? Why would they have jobs? What could they possibly be doing? Ewan McGregor goes to work. He's got a couple friends there with him. It's the negative Nancy from The Elevator and the conspiracy man. But yeah, when they show up at work, it's this kind of moment, I think, again, unintentionally critiquing capitalism. It does seem to be the case that the company is offloading the cost of doing business ultimately onto the consumers. Now, well, I guess we're not there yet because maybe you haven't seen this movie and maybe you're invested in me discussing the first 30 minutes and then just spoiling the rest of it. So maybe we'll come back to that. While they're at work, the conspiracy theory man has a brilliant conspiracy theory. And they talk about there's another new survivor. When they're at work, they look over and they see, oh, there's another new survivor here. And he's an idiot. And he has like no motor skills, no coordination. He's just kind of like, boo, 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 I'm an idiot. And they're joking like, oh, was I that stupid when I when I was first found, apparently what's going on, once again, it's an apocalypse outside. They find new survivors. So this new guy at work, he's a new survivor. And they have to go through this decontamination process. And so we think, well, so that must account for these people being entered into language, these adults that are doing remedial, children's language exercises. And then this other guy over here with no fine motor control, who's a total idiot. They're going through the decontamination process. They're more new survivors are being found all the time. And they joke a little bit. There's a little bit of inherent transgression that once again build the social bond. And the conspiracy theory, Ewan McGregor's conspiracy homie, lays out this grand conspiracy plan, conspiracy scheme that has to do directly with the lottery. I thought this was an interesting moment as well, because it kind of demonstrates when people are powerless. These citizens, these white tracksuit citizens, do live in a world where they are powerless. There really is nothing they can do other than just go through the motions, wake up, pee in the robot urinal, eat the cold grits and fresh fruit, follow the rules, go to work, and hope that they get called for the lottery. So it's kind of, it's kind of the boat we're all stuck in, right? Like we're all powerless and we all kind of have no choice but to just go through the daily grind, day by day, same old shit. It is what it is. And we're powerless to really do anything, to change anything. But a thing a lot of people do in these moments when they realize they're powerless, rather than, I don't know, sit with that and try to figure it out, and try to, I don't know, do something despite the fact that they believe they're powerless. They craft grand narratives and conspiracy tales. And that's what this guy does. That's what Jones does right here. And he starts talking about how the lottery is rigged. And if you go through and assign particular numeric value to everybody's name, excluding the women and blah, blah, blah. And he goes through this grand, almost Kabbalistic scheme, explaining that the lottery is rigged. And then he reveals to his friends, and I have figured out the truth. I will be the next one to win the lottery. I will win the lottery. And so this is with Ewan McGregor's homies. We have, Negative Nancy, who kicks the wall and calls himself a loser. He is dissatisfied, but he's still kind of internalized the logic of this place. He still understands how far he can push it. And he still understands that he's powerless. So he might throw a fit. He might call himself a loser. He might kind of have a bad attitude from time to time. But ultimately, he still believes there is nothing he can do. Jones, on the other hand, is subject to the Negative Nancy in the same way. He's equally powerless. He's subject to all the same rules, but rather than, throwing a fit and getting upset about it and, trying to find ways to exercise his own agency, kicking the wall and saying, I'm a loser, he goes whole ham and he just says, fuck it. I am the specialist boy. I am the chosen one. I will be the one. I have seen the light. I know the hidden truth of this world. And not only do I know the hidden truth of this world, but I will be rewarded for having accessed the hidden truth of this world. I thought that was just kind of a really excellent demonstration of how that works in real life. I mean, that's why we have such growing conspiracist movements. That's why people do retreat into, kind of conspiracy worlds, because they are powerless. And because rather than having to sit with uncomfortable feelings of I'm a loser, and rather than, just being unhappy, they're onboarding the kind of super egoic logic of it all. And they're saying, I am special. I am the goodest boy. I am the chosenest boy. I am the specialist boy. And I have secret knowledge. And we see it again and again when these people are kind of confronted with reality, they just move the goalposts. They never say, "Oh, I was wrong. This is all bullshit." They keep it up. So we're seeing this play out a lot right now with Trump and the Trumpstein files. Hey, QAnon, where the fuck are you guys, dude? A couple years ago, you guys were all over the place. You guys, all that shit at January 6th, that shit at Comet Ping Pong, the pizza place, motherfucker running up on the motherfuckers with rifles and shit. Like, I've been to Comet Ping Pong. Like, you guys were all over. Jake Chansley, dude from Arizona, dude that was at January 6th, and he's now released, and he's actually a public nuisance. So I saw CNN did an interview with him recently. The funny thing is that they didn't mention he is a public nuisance. People in Northern Phoenix and Scottsdale hate this guy because this fucking dude goes up on the mountain early in the morning, sunrise, and he gets out his little drums because he pretends that he's a shaman, and he starts yelling, and he like yells and bangs his drums at sunrise every day for like 45 minutes. And he's a public fucking nuisance. Like, it's known. Like, people talk about it in the neighborhood subreddits. Fuck that guy. That's him. So the QAnon shaman guy is still out here lacking self-awareness, totally just imposing himself on everyone because he thinks, and he says like, oh yeah, I'm getting in touch with my ancestral spiritual blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you're not, homie. You're performing. And you're just being a nuisance to everybody. You're waking people up at sunrise every day, But like, where the fuck did you go, QAnon? You guys had all that smoke, and then all of a sudden, now that all these files are coming out, you're coming up with justifications as to why it's still all the Democrats' fault and why it's still Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. And yeah, sure, fucking, they're demons, they're vampires. All the people that did these horrible, atrocious things are horrible and atrocious people. But the QAnon folks who were all in on the conspiracy QAnon stuff, now that they've been presented with reality, and it turns out they weren't even 100% wrong. It turns out they were shockingly right about some things. But because the narrative is that Daddy Trump is the savior, and, Trump and Jesus are going to come and kill all the evil people, they're still, rather than, fuck, homie, what's up with January 6th part 2, dude? Like, I would assume, like, these people who did January 6th, now that it turns out, your God King Trump is complicit. I don't know. You guys, you're sure not showing up. And that's the way these things work. That's the way these things work with flat earthers. That's the way these things work with people who think the earth is hollow. That's the way these things work with people who think there's two suns in the sky, and Mandela effect people, and dinosaurs didn't exist people, and like all this stuff. And it can become very toxic, very detrimental to the social well-being of communities to have people retreating further and further and further into their narratives, into their little conspiracy worlds. And it's actually a major problem with the world we live in today. And I just thought that this part in this film, it was really good. It kind of demonstrated that really, really, really good. So we're 17 and a half minutes in. And I've talked for about an hour about all this stuff that this film does a really good job demonstrating. Again, I think the first half hour of this movie is excellent. I think you should fucking go watch it. Yeah, I still need to get back to why they have jobs. So we'll try to speed run the rest of my notes here, and then I'll get back to why they have jobs, and then I'll close it out. So at like 22 minutes and 40 seconds or so, Ewan McGregor has shown himself to be a crafty little boy, and he's actually got access to a restricted area by faking a computer breakdown. He has to go talk to the computer tech Turns out the supervisor can't do it right now. He has too much on his plate. He gives Ewan McGregor the security key to get into the restricted area to go find the computer guy. Computer guy is Steve Buscemi. Ewan McGregor gets access to the back rooms. Meets up with Steve Buscemi. They go out and smoke a cigarette. Ewan McGregor is giddy to smoke a cigarette with Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is this, empathetic guy. He's just a worker. Like he's working on the tech that supports this place. He's not a black tracksuit guy. He's not a white tracksuit guy. He's something else entirely. And this is when the outside world is first kind of introduced to us. So Steve Buscemi is just a guy working on computers. He knows he's not supposed to be talking to Ewan McGregor, but he is engaging in inherent transgression with Ewan McGregor. Once again, Ewan McGregor is putting himself at risk. He's invested in Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is doing the same thing. He's investing in Ewan McGregor, and they're simulating symbolic exchange. They sit down, they have a cigarette. Ewan McGregor asks, what's God? Steve Buscemi responds, when you close your eyes and you wish really hard for something. Ewan McGregor's like, yeah. Steve Buscemi says, God is what ignores you. I thought that was a really cool part in the film where, God is dead. There is no God. Modernity killed God. And it seems to be just like a joke, like a jeering joke. Maybe even the writers of the film, Michael Bay himself, they're trying to engage in inherent transgression. Because at the time, it was still kind of edgy to say, God isn't there, God ignores you or whatever. But I think what's really interesting about it is it demonstrates modernity killed God and replaced him. Rather than killing God and then opening up the world and saying, look, you're free, you're emancipated, modernity or capital came in, killed God, and took his place. And Steve Buscemi represents this character because he's in this position where there is no God. And Steve Buscemi is free to say there is no God. Steve Buscemi is free to believe there is no God. But from the perspective of Ewan McGregor, Steve Buscemi represents the outside. Steve Buscemi is from the outside. He is fundamentally different. He might as well be of divine nature in relation to Ewan McGregor. And I don't think the writers of this film were kind of keen on that dynamic. Maybe they were, but I don't think so. I think they once again accidentally kind of stumbled into something, accidentally critiquing capital by demonstrating this kind of double logic. Doubling has a lot to do with this movie, or this movie does a lot with doubling and inversion. But there's this inversion and there's this doubling up of God. So while Steve Buscemi says, God ignores you, God is dead, God doesn't exist, whatever, he is actually representative of the divine from Ewan McGregor's position because he's on the outside. And then they kind of go goofs and gaffs and blah, blah, blah. And it is what it is. I think Ewan McGregor finds a bug. He then takes it back to his cell, and it kind of is a plot point that he has a bug. He has a flying bug. But we follow Steve Buscemi after the What's God conversation. Steve Buscemi walks through the corridors and the pipes and the steam and the this and the that, and he goes into the tech room. There's monitors and there's technology. And this is when we have the big reveal of the film. So this is actually why I didn't want to talk about the labor relations thing quite yet. But here we go. So at the reveal, at about 24 and a half minutes into the film, the big reveal is that this is a cloning facility. And they are birthing a clone. And Steve Buscemi walks in, and there are people there giving birth to this clone from this amniotic sac. And Steve Buscemi is like, ooh, don't do that in front of me. I'm going to lose my lunch. And then they do it anyway, blah, blah, blah. They kind of focus in on the technology and the amniotic sac and the fluid and the clone being born. And then one of the workers, one of these gruff workers, splashes water on the clone and says, "Welcome to the world." And I thought that was funny. Then we cut back to the inside. And Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson are involved in VR gaming. They're playing Tekken, but in VR. And it's not Tekken, but they're playing a fighting game. And it's in VR. And they have like full body avatars punching and kicking. And it's all cool. VR gaming is the wave of the future. Yay, here we go, future. Of course, there's an Xbox advertisement there. And it is what it is. Shout out Xbox. Now I think I will go back to the labor relations at 17 minutes. I only have one more real note, and then I kind of want to give some final thoughts. But so at 17 minutes, when Ewan McGregor gets to his job, and you think like, wait a minute, that's weird. Like, why do the white tracksuit people have this kind of job when there's all these black tracksuit people and there's all this support staff, you know, lunch ladies and laundry people and security guards and people who check biometrics of people doing yoga and swimming and stuff like that? Why do they have jobs? It seems to be the case that they are the subjects of this place. Like, the citizens should be living in the lap of luxury here. Why are they working? But it turns out they are actually, like I said, offloading the cost of doing business onto the citizens. The agnates is what they're called. The consumer, ultimately, even though these are clones of the consumers, Ewan McGregor, Scarlett Johansson, Jones, Negative Nancy, all these people, they're clones. And what they're doing, like their job, is like the cloning process. Like, they're taking syringes and they're taking vials and they're doing stuff and they have to check genetic data, this and that. And on the surface, they're telling them their job is, oh, your job is, you know, environmental science. You guys are all trying to help figure out a way to decontaminate people and decontaminate the rest of the earth. And if you can figure it out, then we can all go to the island. But either way, this is what you do. You have to have a job while you're here. You're going to do science to try to save the world. And the rest of these people, don't worry about these people. Don't worry about, you know, Sean Bean. Don't worry about Lunch Lady. We're contaminated or something, whatever. We're not allowed to go to the island. We're just support staff. You guys are the real important people. You guys are doing the real important work of saving the world. And that's why you have jobs. But the reality of it is, and I think it's really interesting, like that is probably the more expensive part of the costs that Merrick has to pay. Like, it's probably more expensive to clone people and run all the cloning infrastructure than it is to do laundry and serve meals and, you know, act as a security guard. So the major cost of business is the cloning. And the people who do that labor are the clones themselves. So, you know, it's just interesting. It's an example of businesses offloading the cost of doing business onto the consumer. Now, you could argue, well, they're not the consumer, they're the clone. And I would say, sure, but would you agree to be cloned if you knew that your clone would be trapped in a superegoic prison doing menial tasks all day long? And you might say, well, yeah, because then I would still be out here. I would still be free. But in this world, you know, the clones ultimately maintain memories and subjectivity because they're cloned as adults. They're not cloned as little babies and grown. Like, when they're birthed as adults. Hence the adults being subjectivized, being entered into language. Hence the coworker, the new survivor going through decontamination, why he's so uncoordinated and silly and goofy. Because they're born as adults, and they maintain somehow, some way, memory of their previous life. So it very much is this kind of, I don't know, setting in this world. You would be condemning yourself to do menial labor on the inside, even though you're brainwashed and conditioned, and even though Ewan McGregor is special. Remember, Ewan McGregor, you're special. You have a special task to do, and the reason that's important is because the audience identifies with Ewan McGregor. But anyway, I just thought the labor relations thing was really interesting. I'm actually going to go pee and then finish up, so I'll be right back.
I wish I was special.
Okay. Ralph Macchio. Yeah.
The hell are we doing with ourselves, Winston? What are we doing with our lives? Been sitting here all day. We haven't done anything. I know what I'll do. I'll call Mikey, see what he's up to. We'll read something, or talk about something, or maybe have a conversation with someone, or maybe we'll just shoot the shit. That's what I'll do. And by the way, you can be a part of it too. If you head on over to patreon.com/thedangerousmaybe, you can check out what's going on. You can get access to some of the things that aren't currently publicly available. And just know for a fact, more is coming soon. This year, 2026, will be a year of bounty. Our good friend Nick Land recently said it was an Atlantean year. So surely that must mean it's going to be full of, wonderful stuff. So head on over to patreon.com/thedangerousmaybe. Get access to the stuff that's not currently publicly available, and have a more, reliable avenue of communication, of asking questions or sharing comments that Mikey will actually see and maybe respond to. Someone just became a paying supporter at Patreon. They've been a supporter for years of what's been going on, what Mikey's been doing and what I've been doing. And it wasn't until recently where this person became a paying subscriber, all thanks to Christian's awesome theme song. So you can, find all the cool stuff there, check it out, and be a part of whatever we're going to get up to next. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hop on a phone call, see what Mikey's doing, and I'll catch you there. Bye, folks.
Bum. Okay. Here we are. Gonna finish it out. Gonna close it out soon. So the VR gaming, that happens at like 27 minutes. At 29-ish minutes, we see our two protagonists, Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, hanging out in the bar. So after they do the VR gaming, hell yeah, Xbox, hell yeah, VR gaming. I love the future. This is so cool. The future's super cool. Thank you, Michael Bay. Then they're hanging out in the bar, and it's, it's got cool lights, looks kind of cool. It does have a little bit of that, like what we've come to expect of the future. Neon lights and like darkness and really kind of cool stuff, and, heavy techno music, heavy bass, stuff like that. And it's a club, and they go to the bar. It really does almost look like, is it? Oh my God, I can't remember the name of the bar in Mass Effect. But it again has Mass Effect vibes, but like the bar where they go to dance in Mass Effect. Anyway. So we're at the bar. Ewan McGregor shows up at the bar. Once again, no, Mr. McGregor, you can't have drugs or alcohol or anything fun. You can only have healthy stuff. Okay, fine. I'll only have healthy stuff. And remember, this prohibition, because it's inverted, it isn't real prohibition. It subjectivizes you in a different way than real prohibition would, because with real prohibition, with the big other comes in and says no, and the reason for the no is no. That's it. It doesn't need to be justified. It doesn't need to be backed up. It is backed up by virtue of itself. Like that is what it is. It is force. It is like this thing that just says no. And it can go on to justify itself and explain itself, but it doesn't have to. It can go on to justify and say, well, it's for, the public good, or, it's for this, and it'll be better if you do it this way, blah, 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 blah. It can explain and justify itself, but it doesn't have to. But this type of super egoic prohibition, it has to justify itself, because that's what turns it in, like that's what inverts it, and that's what makes it it's not a real prohibition. It's actually freedom. Can't you see? I'm actually optimizing you by saying no. But the reason for the no is because it's actually going to make you better. So with the big other, the no is going to say, no, you can't. The rest of the world is like, there's a limit. There's a hard limit with the big other, with actual prohibition. With this type of inverted prohibition, there is no limit. It's doing like a Keynesian thing. It's saying, well, you can't have it right now. But the reason you can't have it right now is because we're going to optimize you and make you better. So you serve as the ultimate limit for this kind of super egoic prohibition. Whereas in the big other, the world around you, or the other, or the social order, or whatever, just general law and order, whatever it may be, that's the limit. There's always an external limit. When that prohibition gets inverted and becomes super egoic, you become the ultimate limit. So it's not actually prohibition. It's not actually negation. It's affirmation. And that's what's fucked up. That's what makes it weird. That's what causes it to be dysfunctional. The fact that it's like turning you inside out, and dumping the contents of you out all over the floor in the process of turning itself inside out and turning you inside out. So we're at the bar. Ewan McGregor, you can't have any drugs. Okay, fine, whatever. Scarlett Johansson, she says, give me a pink papusa passion fruit drink or whatever. She's happy about it because, once again, she still has faith in this place. She still has faith in the logic of this place. So even though she also can't have the drugs, or the whatever it is, the alcohol, whatever, she has to have the healthy drink too. She's happy about it. She's okay with it. And so they get their drinks, they keep moving. And then they go into a darkened corner of the bar, or a darker, not darkened. That makes it sound like a noir. But they go to a darker corner of the bar where they can actually sit and talk to each other. And Ewan McGregor tells Scarlett Johansson about the bug that he finds. He found a bug, and it's a flying bug. And she says, well, it must have been too small to be detected by the detectors. And he's like, no, it wasn't too small. And she's like, well, that's impossible. It's toxic outside. No bugs are around outside. He says, yeah, that's what I thought too. And they go back and forth and they talk about this bug. And in this moment, this is the other scene that I said is really good. It's a contender. It's one of the best scenes. I still think the meeting with Merrick is the best scene overall in the movie. This, I think, is maybe the second best scene. They're very childlike in their dialogue and in their expression and in their behavior. They're acting like children. And I'm pretty sure they were directed to do this. I'm pretty sure it was in the script to be childlike, because it's just very, very, very evident that they're very childlike. And they haven't really been childlike in this way yet throughout the movie. There are a few other moments where it kind of comes through, but it really kind of sets itself on display here, where they're just childlike, very kind of simplistic, yet inquisitive, yet also very credulous, very immature, very just kind of unwise, very childlike. And they're doing it because we know now. We know that they're clones. We know that they're living in a fabricated world. We know they're living on the inside of this kind of vast machine that functions to conceal the truth from them. That truth being that they are doubles and they are separated from the real world. So I think the childlike behavior, they're acting it up here to kind of double down on that. I also think it goes nicely with the superegoic control of this place as opposed to, real prohibition and real discipline. And even going all the way back to when there's a scuffle with the guards, one of the citizens, one of the white tracksuits does get in a scuffle with the guards. It's not a real scuffle. It's not like they're fighting or shooting him or anything like that. It's just a tussle. They're shoving around as if you would shove a child around. So I thought, that's actually really good writing. It demonstrates how living in this way, like living in this kind of pure positive environment where there is no gap between desire and the object of desire itself atrophies, and you're no longer able to desire anything. It's all just pre-satisfaction and post-satisfaction. And you don't really, develop into a mature thinking, speaking being. Like you stay very childlike. It's like the kid from the AI, the Steven Spielberg movie. He's very creepy. I think his name is David. He's very childlike. He's very immature. He's very creepy. He doesn't understand prohibition. He wants what he wants, and he gets what he wants. And when he can't get what he wants, he throws a fit. And he's like fascinated by the world in this very, once again, childlike way. And I just thought, great writing, great performance. And it also kind of, speaking about the world today, we see that played out again in these people who live in these vast, contrived conspiracy worlds, and with people who are constantly stimulated. They're constantly on their device. They're constantly pumping something into their brain. They're not really in the real world. They're not tarrying with negation. They're not forced to overcome, contradiction and conflict and any of this stuff. Like, we all are just extremely childlike. The internet culture overall largely has moved in a very childlike direction. And downstream of that, like, people in real life are becoming more and more like children, like adult children. And I don't want to be that alarmist guy, the culture war guy who's talking to, I think those guys are even bigger babies. I really do. Like, I think people who do the culture war and people who talk about, like, we need traditions and we need traditional this and we need to look back to our roots and we need to do hard things just because they're hard and blah, blah, blah. I think those people are bigger children and they're worse off than other people who don't fall into that. Once again, read my piece, The Ergodic Ethic. I don't know if I brought that up earlier or not, but read my piece, The Ergodic Ethic, on Strange Exiles. Shout out Bram, Strange Exiles. Go to Substack, Strange Exiles. Read his series, Crisis Masculinity. There's some excellent pieces in there. And I wrote one of them. It's called The Ergodic Ethic. It's trying to talk about this tension because it is true that living in a world of pure positivity diminishes us in a way. But the answer to that is not to just do the reactionary thing and be like, oh, let's just do hard things because they're hard, and not look back to like reactionary traditional structures and shit like that. But it really is like to hold yourself accountable in how you interact with commodity objects and in how you interact with the world. Like, hold yourself to a higher standard. Don't project onto the world and don't act like it's an external problem, because while it is an external problem and it is a structural problem, the effects are being played out internally. So you are powerless when it comes to changing the world in this way by, I I don't know, clinging tightly to traditions, or just saying, let's do 1,000 push-ups, or let's climb mountains, or, let's, I don't know, fucking do hard things just because they're hard. Like, you are powerless. That's not going to do anything. It's just going to turn you into a fucking annoying douchebag. But you have power over what goes on the inside. So you can hold yourself accountable, and you can try to understand what that means. Like what does that mean to develop internal standards for how I interact with commodities and stuff like that? Go read that piece, read other people's pieces. That's an ongoing conversation. All that to say, it is true that we seem to be becoming a bunch of babies. And I thought it was cool that was in this film as well. And it kind of demonstrates what the superego, some of the effects of this kind of superegoic world that we live in today, because we see it play out in The Island, this superegoic dystopia. So that's it at like 29 minutes. A few minutes after that, 33 minutes or so, the escape begins, and then the movie unfolds, and it becomes a Michael Bay action movie. And I don't know. It's been a long time since I've watched the whole movie. Like I said, I watched the first half hour, and then I decided to record a podcast episode about it. So, if you're here, I hope I didn't spoil too much of the movie. I don't think I did. I do think the ending pays off. I think it's a great movie. Like I said, it is one of my favorite movies. I think the first half hour of this movie is actually excellent, because it just example after example after example, talking about superego, talking about disavowal and conspiracy and doubling, and all that. So The Island is an excellent movie. Shout out Caspian Treadwell Owen, Alex Kurtzman of Star Trek fame, and Roberto Orci. Shout out, you guys wrote it, and Michael Bay directed it. And then, of course, Ewan McGregor, Scarlett Johansson, Jimon Honshu, Sean Bean, Michael Clark Duncan, and Steve Buscemi, and all these other guys. Excellent performances all around. I think some pretty clever writing, and maybe Michael Bay's best film. So there's all that. That's the end of my notes. And yeah, I think it's a good movie. I think ultimately it still fails. The Island is still like playing out like ideologically, like The Island is ultimately still a power fantasy. Ewan McGregor is special, and he has a special task to complete, as we see in the opening minutes of the film, where he is super egoically interpolated, and we identify with his character, being the audience. He is who carries us through this narrative, and ultimately the narrative ends with him indeed being special. So it still does serve as this kind of doubling. I think the themes are really interesting: cloning and doubling and disavowal. The clone can play the role of my life is horrible, but his life is awesome, and he's the real me. Like going back to the doppelganger from Alenka's book, like talking about the disavowal and the doppelganger. Like, oh, my life sucks, but his life is awesome, and he's actually the real instance of me. So everything's okay. There's that, but then there's this other, I don't know, like an inversion of that doubling of the logic, where I know the truth. Like, even though I'm the clone and I'm on the inside, like I am special and I discovered the truth, and he's actually the idiot, and he's actually the clone, and he actually should be on the inside. And when the narrative of the film plays out in this way, where Ewan McGregor is actually vindicated in being special and having access to, if nothing else, sheer will, that can kind of get him out of it. And I think that ultimately kind of falls flat. It kind of sucks at the end of the day. It's like, man, I wish I would have wrote this movie, because I would have had a totally different ending, just to avoid that, just to avoid it becoming like a power fantasy. I would have the audience identify with the clone, and still have this kind of cloning dynamic. But I would have it play out in a way that doesn't vindicate, the special knowledge, you are special, like that. That's what's going on. And that's being subverted in the film. So like surface level, I think it's a great story, but ideologically what happens, because the heroes win, and the good guys win and the bad guys lose, because it's a film and we identify with the protagonist and it turns out the protagonist is special. This film actually does the same thing that these conspiracy theories do, and these doublings do, and disavowal and all this stuff. Like ultimately it is just a form of disavowal. And that sucks, because I think the first 30 minutes of this movie could have turned into a great film. And I don't think it ended as a great film. I think it ended as a good film. Just because it's one of my favorite movies, doesn't mean it's a great film. I don't know. Yeah, let's the rest of my notes. I guess I'll just read what I wrote, and then we'll log off. Ultimately, this movie falls flat, but the first 30 minutes are excellent. The island still serves as a form of disavowal. The clones/clients dyad serves as an ideological doubling. My life sucks, but his doesn't, and he's the real me. / they're all sheep. I'm the real one with my knowledge of the truth. ... All these fantasies of simulation and conspiracy play this role. We imagine that there is an outside, and because there is an outside, we are absolved of our complicity in the state of the world. We are living for heaven, or we are simply powerless, or there is a real me at the end of samsara, and on and on and on, until we are so sated and sedated that we indeed take no action. I think that right there. We do seem to be powerless to fight the systems and structures in the world today that are making the world a horrible fucking place. I don't know. Like I don't even like thinking about it. Like, but the Trump files stuff, the Epstein files stuff is fucking horrendous. And on top of that, like all the violence, all the crazy shit. It seems like the world is just in this constant state of upheaval that just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and intensifying and getting more and more out of hand. And it does seem to be the case that we are powerless to do anything about that. But we're not powerless to change the way we view our role in it all. We're not powerless to maybe develop some standards to hold ourselves to do some hyper-local praxis, and to really start to understand the role we play in all of it. Because even though it is this kind of vast, disembodied system, we're still complicit in it in many, 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 many ways. And just because we're powerless to put it into that doesn't mean we're powerless to understand what we can do from our position. I have this dumbass motivational poster on my wall. Got it from my dad. Shout out, Dad. I love you, dude. Dumbass poster. It's a motivational poster. It's a sandcastle. It's a picture of a sandcastle on a beach. And it says, "You can do it." And then it says, "Build what you can with what you have from where you are." And as fucking saccharine as that might be, it's true, dude. You can do it. Now, what is it? What is it? Something. You can do something. And in order to be able to do anything, you first have to understand your situation, your situatedness within the larger situation, and understand the role you play, and understand your complicity in the world. Not to say complicity like you're all guilty, you're all bad people, no ethical consumption, blah, 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 blah. Not to do any of that, but like, you're a part of the world, dude. You know, there's 8 or 9 billion of us, and things are just getting crazier. Things are getting more and more out of hand, and blah blah blah, and this and that. But you're a part of that, and I'm a part of that, and we're all a part of that. And if we can, you know, understand ourselves better and understand our situation better, then maybe we can do something, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe all we can do is just organize, not into like a labor movement, hoping to do some type of, you know, revolution or anything like that. But maybe we can organize with an eye to just surviving what comes next. I think that might be a more effective organizing principle, not seizing the means, not global revolution, but surviving what comes next. And not just surviving what comes next, but remaining human throughout what comes next. And there's all that. And now, you know, I'm all getting all soapboxy and shit like that. But don't sit back and disavow everything and exhaust yourself to the point of taking no action. Find your place in this schema, in this global schema, and find out what you can do better in your life, for yourself immediately. There's all that. I also took a note, same fears in Gattaca, Repo Man, the Genetic Opera, and The Matrix. I recorded like before I recorded this episode, and I'm actually not going to append that to this episode. But in that, I was talking about Baudrillard and simulation. I talked about The Matrix a little bit, and I think this is a better movie. I think The Island is a better movie. It offers a lot more in the way of kind of critiquing simulation, disavow, superego, than I think The Matrix does. However, I think The Matrix 4 is the best Matrix movie. I love the Matrix movies. Similarly, they're some of my favorite movies. I don't know if yeah, they're great because they were great, excellent cinematic experiences. I told Mikey the other day, I'm pretty sure I cried the first time I saw The Matrix. I'm pretty sure I was stoned, and I'm pretty sure I fucking cried because it was just so mind blowing. So yeah, I love The Matrix. I do think Matrix 4 is the best Matrix movie. For reasons that we'll talk about, Mikey and I'm sure we'll do a Matrix episode. But I actually think this movie, The Island, just has more gas in the tank if you want to, you know, talk critically. I think Gattaca is another one that actually has a lot of gas in the tank. And I think Repo Man is another one that has a lot of really good shit to say, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of good ideas. But I've been in this mindset thinking about simulation. Gattaca, or not Gattaca, The Island deals with simulation and disavowal and superego. And yeah, I think it's a good film. Definitely, you should watch it if you have some free time. Apparently, it's leaving Netflix soon, so get on it. Or if you actually own the physical media, maybe it's time for a rewatch. Or maybe you can go to, you know, Yo Ho Ho, Sail the Seven Seas, and watch it that way too. But yeah, I'm going to get out of your hair. I'm going to upload this. I might upload it, you know, right now. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks for dropping by, folks. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Do all the things, all the buttons, you know, support, blah, blah, blah. And we'll catch you on the next one. Yeah. I'm going to go eat some thing. I don't know what, but I'm going to go eat something and then, and post up. So peace out.